Every great creative work stands on the shoulders of giants. Welcome to RetroInspection, where we examine and find out where the things we love today came from.
So let me ask you about this. Um, Scarlet Pimpernel, while in France,
Mm-hmm.
he wears another disguise. In fact, he might have worn several disguises that we don't even know about.
Yeah, well, we assume that that's a component of most of his missions in France. But you're talking about the one this one. This is the one you're talking about, where he dresses up as an old lady and hides people under hay in the cart and gets them out of Paris. Yeah.
So he's not swashbuckling. He's not out in the open. He's not beating people up in the streets. He's secreting them, and he's acting with an intelligence that is quite different than what you might expect from a hero of the day. In fact, you would think maybe the closest at that time were maybe the Musketeers.
I mean, I guess action was at this time. We're talking about the beginning of the late 19th, early 20th century. Action is doled out in smaller portions in stories. Holmes was capable of violent action when necessary. A lot of time he would leave it to Watson, but not all of the time. There were other detective characters. I mean, Bulldog Drummond is probably around this time or not much later, and he was incredibly violent by the standards of the era. Within 20 years, you'll see Race Williams. You'll see all the American hard-boiled stuff. But even so, they were like fist fights and things. The Saint did a fair amount of that stuff, and he's probably about 10 to 15 years after this. Contemporaneously, I mean, Raffles gets into some fights. I mean, and I know that he uses like disguises and stuff too. When he's a burglar. He's not a master criminal on the level of Phantom Oz, but he's a successful working criminal. Most of the other detectives coming out of British fiction at the time are still largely in the Holmes mode of being brain workers. But they get in fights, but not very commonly.
But previously you had the swashbuckling swordsman.
Yeah.
But they were quite a bit removed from this era.
Well, no, because you're old. There's also all the penny dreadfuls.
Okay.
In both Britain and America. So in America, they tend to be cowboy characters that get in gunfights. I mean, our myth of the modern West largely comes out of dime novels from the late, 19th century, or sometimes they're detectives. Sometimes they're like Pinkerton guys in America, but over in England, sometimes they're Scotland Yard detectives. Scotland Yard being a relatively recent development at this time. Or their depictions, if you go back in history, they're depictions of highwaymen like Dick Turpin, who had books upon books written about him.
But Scarlet Pimpernel is not acting as say Robin Hood would, where he's actively defying the sheriff of Nottingham.
No. The Pimpernel Blakeney is very much of the power structure. He does not exist in opposition to the state or to an oppressor class.
But he's also what I meant by that is he's also not publicly. He works in the shadows. He works with subterfuge. He doesn't work with direct power.
He's unofficial.
Yeah.
So he is a vigilante like Zorro.
Right. Okay. I think I'm quite surprised that if I were to think about it, the perfect actor to play the Scarlet Pimpernel might have been Peter Sellers.
Not big enough, because that's something she can't shut up in the book about what an exemplary physical specimen Blakeney is.
So
He's
what?
6 feet tall.
Alec Guinness?
If you got him to work out. So yeah, because that's something else going on and on. He is, I don't know, man. When she thought him up, he must have been some kind of idealized male figure in Orczy's head, because also talking about, his height, which was unusual for his era. 6-footers were not thick on the ground in the 1790s.
Right.
Most
And
people,
he was more than 6 foot, right?
at least that then. I can't remember for sure, but also talking about how muscular he is. And most people, due to nutrition problems, didn't put on a lot of mass, regardless of how much work they did in the 70s. Most people were operating in a caloric deficit in this era. Or they ate way too much, there was your hog fat nobility, a bunch of people running around with gout. So yeah, I mean, yeah, he's just like you could almost see maybe a Tyrone Power or somebody, or if you were using Americans, I don't know, in a Victor Mature, probably not Leslie Howard, probably not Ashley Wilkes over here. But they hired who they hired. They hired a guy with a plummy British accent, and God knows he had that in spades.
He would if John Wayne could have done a British accent, it would have been John Wayne. That's the way Orczy wrote him.
Yeah.
But in terms of disguise, the ability to turn yourself to mold yourself into different types of characters. I mean, come on, Peter Sellers.
Oh no, that 100%. Yeah, and she got that device from Sherlock Holmes. Holmes would do that stuff all the time. He'd bend himself up and stoop and twist and put makeup all, and he would have appliances, what we think of as modern makeup. He would monkey with his eyelids, and he'd stuff his cheeks, and he would do the fake teeth, and he would rouge himself up to give himself gin roses and stuff on his face if he was playing a guy who was supposed to be a drunk, or he would play old guys, or I don't know if he ever did any women, but Holmes did disguises left and right in those stories. So I think that's where she gets that business.
Like, subscribe, repost, share everywhere. To see what else we're up to, visit xynobooks.com, xenobooks.com.